I wanted that transformation for everybody. If it works with a neurodivergent child whose journey tends to be tougher in regular school, it will definitely work with all children. And I think that gave birth to the emotional resilient curriculum. School cannot be knowledge based now.
And I'm glad that, somebody's identified that.
Whenever we spoke about emotional mental health with people, they really looked at neurodivergent women. They looked at only those special cases who needed that in a very acute manner. But what about the rest of the population? It's not that they don't need it, right? So that's where we said we need to place ourselves.
You have something for the teachers.
Yes.
You have something for the parents.
Correct.
And definitely you have a curriculum for the students as well.
Yes.
Welcome to another episode of Education Matters. I'm your host, JK. We are thrilled to have the trailblazing minds behind a unique approach of learning called Infinite Learning Room. Ms. Neha Mital, co-founder, chief creative and curriculum officer, a dynamic designer, and a hands-on mom. Also joining us will be Mr. Apurva Shah, co-founder and CEO. Together, they are building more than just programs. They are shaping emotional intelligence for the next generation. One conversation, one insight, one inner compass at a time. Let's welcome Ms. Neha. Hello, Ms. Neha. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We have something in common. Of course, both of us are parents. You're parents to two. You're a parent to two children. I'm parent to two kids. But we have one more thing in common. That is, we both are ex-advertising, right?
I recently learned that. And what are the odds?
Yeah. So, what's up with advertising people moving into education? So,
I think I really thought I was the odd duck out. I'm so happy to know that as well. So I think we all have our trajectory, and you learn and you see the gaps that are missing, and you have a passion to make a change. And we all in our ways trying to, fill in those gaps.
so which agency were you in?
So I was in Lintas. I used to head their design wing.
5.
Yes. Yes. Glorious times. I had a lot of fun there. I think I grew up as a person from a child into, working professional and the kind of people you meet and big agencies, lots of people. It's a big family. Glorious memories.
So, from advertising to getting into creating this unique curriculum, which emphasizes on certain elements which even I feel are missing from the standardized curriculum which is floating around.
Yes.
So, what was the journey? Can you just share that?
So I think I remember when I walked into Lintas, I realized how ill-equipped I was. I had my art training. I've been to a good school, but no one taught me life skills, so to say. How do you resolve conflict in your team? Any leadership skills? How do you feel comfortable in your own skin? How do you think out of the box? And suddenly, from a protective home to into a big world format.
So, yeah, share your journey from advertising into education. It's pretty unique, right? I mean, I thought I was also the odd one out, but yeah.
So I think when I entered Lintas, I definitely realized that despite the art education, despite a good school, I didn't have any of the real world skills that you wanted at the job. For example, how do you raise a team? How do you work with a team? How do you resolve conflicts, different languages, different culture, being comfortable in my own skin, ideating on the job. There were so many things I thought, were kind of missing. And I took note of them and grown myself. It honestly takes a few years to kind of get there. But I saw the clear need when I had my son. So my son has about 3 learning disabilities. And life seems so much more challenging for him. When we kept his academic aside and started focusing on who he is as a person, and working from his strengths and work on his emotional resilience, we saw the turnaround. When he's comfortable, he's okay. He can manage anything. When he's not okay within, everything came tumbling down. So I realized if focusing on your strengths, focusing on your emotional resilience works for a neurodivergent child, it will definitely work for neurotypical children. And there is a need. I had experienced it personally. So I knew that, we have to bridge this gap. How do children come out with just, academic training is not enough for the real world. How do we empower them with those skills?
I think your infinite learning um, is sort of is it your brainchild? How did that come about?
So I started with workshops and piloted them. And I realized the pandemic actually really solidified the need for it. We all experienced adversity, and there was nothing that prepares you for adversity. Nobody tells you how to manage yourself in a crisis. And that's when it really took off. And, we made the company bigger, and I got Apurva on board. We realized that it's not an individual journey. This is, like-minded people got along to make this bigger. No, and also our parents' generation was the one that saw fathers working for 25 years in one place. We have moved multiple spaces. It may be the same segment or industry, but we would move jobs every 3 to 5 years, right? And our children you don't know done to get the client's work done, etc. How do you resolve conflicts? How do you lead a team? There were so many skills that I simply didn't have. It took a few years learning them. I had some great mentors, thank goodness. So that was one clear gap that I personally experienced. I again saw a gap in education when I had my son, and he has a couple of learning disabilities. So his academic journey is tougher than most children. It feels like you're parenting three children together. Okay. But he and I have great acceptance of this is how we are. We're different from people, and we have to own our differentness. The minute we had acceptance of it, I think that's where our turning point came along. And I noticed that our education was only focusing on academic, on performance and marks. Nobody was noticing his unique skill sets. He's brilliant at Lego. And, I would wonder, where is he going to shine? How is he going to present this to the world that I can see, I can create things, and I'm wonderful at creating things? We started focusing on his strengths versus constantly focusing on what he can't do. Because in the typical system, there was too many things, 9 out of 10 things he couldn't do. And he didn't feel good. I didn't feel good. So we said, okay, what are the things we can do? What are we naturally good at? And we started building him as a person. That really turned everything around, because when he felt wonderful at heart and he felt ready to take on the world, his I am different came from inadequacy, and it turned into, oh, I'm different and I'm happy to be different. Okay, I may not write very well, but I draw brilliantly. I create brilliantly. And we started doing projects with Lego. We started learning math with Lego. Whatever he loved, we said, let's make this the starting point. And that, I think, was the point of solution, that let's focus on his education holistically and his journey as what are the other things that will, academic is one stream. And I think school was testimony. They called me and said, what have you done with this child? Because he's different now. I wanted that transformation for everybody. If it works with a neurodivergent child whose journey tends to be tougher in regular school, it will definitely work with all children. And I think that gave birth to the emotional resilient curriculum.
Wonderful, wonderful, and kudos to you.
Thank you.
Taking the time out and understanding, and of course, it's difficult for a parent to firstly to accept,
Yes. Yes.
the world definition of
Yes.
what is normal, what is not normal, what is
Yes.
different, and I think we are so much focused on putting our children in a box that we have stopped forget it. I mean, we've forgotten how to cherish their uniqueness, right?
Yeah.
I think every I'm from the education industry, and I do feel that every child I meet unique, right? They have their
Yes.
own personality and the way they look at the world, and suddenly, the entire system is designed to. It's like a assembly line setup, right?
Yes.
Okay, you need to this needs to happen. It's like a factory, and this is what you get. And of course, that was designed for the industrial age, where uh, we needed more factory workers, or we needed to pay babus to manage the.
People to execute what the big plans were.
Yes, and that was when the Raj was here, British Raj was here, and they needed a typical kind of workers. So the education system went through an overhaul.
Yeah.
But now I think naturally education system will go through a overhaul.
Really should. It's time.
And it's not only because of people like you, but the world has changed. You were talking about math, and like how
Yeah.
you were discussing that how your child finds math as a subject which is very difficult for him to understand.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether basic math or computational math will really need so much of the general knowledge that he.
Yeah, so there is functional math or math in application in everyday life, right? Where I am going to buy something, I need to give the right amount and come back. I need to catch my flight on time. I need to pay my bills properly. That is everyday math. And that solid math, you should be able to do that, or you want your child to be able to do that. But every child does not have to learn higher math.
Correct.
I don't use my algebra. I mean, I've studied it, I did well at it, but I don't use it. So a lot of people do use it, and most of them don't use it.
Yeah.
So I think we need to look at education in terms of functionality. That what is it? That's why I come back to, what are the life skills? What are the real world life skills that you actually need? There is, education is supposed to enable life, to find the most powerful version of yourself and to support society, to make change in society. Those dynamics have changed today. When education was made, or the one that we're using right now, those dynamics were different. Like you said, it was the industrial age. Today, we're in the digital age. And earlier, when I was growing up, we were learn your tables and who can recite them faster. You don't need those skills right now, right? Now you have your AI, and there's going to be another reinvention of a new level altogether. We're experiencing it within, a year and a half of AI going big and accessible. Knowledge is available everywhere. School cannot be knowledge-based now.
I think it's a wonderful point that you brought out. The world in this digital AI age, it's changing so rapidly, right? I just read a report few weeks back that, all Python programmers are getting fired. And, just 4 years back, that was the most sought after language for programmers. So I'm sure math, as you said, basic math, the math that you need in your daily life is important. But, 10 graders being subject to certain algebra or geometry might not be for, applicable to our daily lives. And then you have your AI will do a lot of computational math for you. So I think Apurva is also joining us now, and we'll continue and we'll understand how he got involved in your this idea of infinite rule, and let's hear from him. Welcome, Apurva, to Education Matters. And we had a brief chat about, what was the idea and, how Miss Neha got into this. I wanted to understand, what was your journey? Was it you saw some gap and that's what you wanted to? I mean, just take us through your journey.
Thanks for having me on the podcast. So for me, I think I've been on that whole self-awareness journey for a good decade and a half of my life in various ways and forms, through therapy, through self-awareness programs, through some spiritual programs. And I felt that if I had received all of that much earlier in life, maybe my trajectory in life would have been different, both professionally and personally. And I felt that this is something which should be extended to children, whereby they are able to make the right choices for themselves in a more meaningful and a wiser fashion. When you have a complete understanding of yourself, is when you can make decisions which are closer to who you truly are. Of course, I have been an investment banker, so the business decisions do count. And there was a gap in the market. And the gap has been in the market for a long time. But what has happened now is, I think, post the pandemic, there is a lot more awareness of this space in education, which is the emotional, mental well-being. And there is more acceptance towards it. Earlier, it was looked as, okay, I may have it, I may not have it. But now there is a clear essence for it in education. And it is being reflected by the government when they put it into policies. It's being government by it's being, justified by the institutions when you have all the IB level schools having some kind of an SEL in place. So slowly and surely, it is making its inroads into the mainstream.
Correct.
And that's where I felt that, it's a good time to step in. It was always a passion. And now it was also being backed by what the environment was talking about. So I said, let's take the step and move on.
Infinite learning, uh, you know, it has helped you personally. It has helped you personally and helped your child. Can we deep dive into what your curriculum is and what are the things that you guys touch upon? And I think this question might be more relevant for you because you've designed the curriculum. That how does it help? Like, what are the aspects that you are covering whereby, it'll help children at a young age?
So one thing we've looked at, we spoke about, it has to cater to multiple intelligences. It has to be multidisciplinary. So we have 3 streams of knowledges that we've looked at is psychology, SEL or CEL, and Eastern philosophy. Each of them have their strength. Psychology has great research, child development, while SEL has global benchmarks that, well established, about 30 years or 3 decades in running. And then Eastern philosophy. We all know, the beauty of our ancient wisdom, the balance of body, mind, and spirit. So we've taken the ethos of all 3 and built the curriculum. It focuses on emotions, attitudes, and behaviors. It starts with self-awareness, self-management, from identification of emotions to how can I manage this emotion? I'm feeling angry. Why am I feeling angry? What is it that I can do to manage this anger? How can I help myself? How can I resolve this with the person in front? After we learn emotions, then we look at the next pillar, which is social learning. And the learning that I had for myself, how can I apply it to the other person in a social context, in a community context? For children, it would be their peers and their classroom. Then comes adversity learning. And you look at life long term. Emotions are helping you in the moment right now, and of course in future. Adversity is long term. Life will be filled with ups and downs. What is it that I can do when I'm not feeling okay, when I've experienced failure? So that is the core of the curriculum. Apurva can add on.
So this was what we have is the structure of the curriculum. What we also looked at the environment that the child is in. So while this child learns all of this, I think it's also they need a conducive environment to practice all of this. So that's why we brought also the teachers training program as well as the awareness of parents program. And both these programs imbibe all of this, plus in addition, helping them with the roles that they play. So for example, if parenting is the role that the parent plays, looking at parenting afresh, looking at it from a perspective of we're in 2025. So what are the needs of parenting today? And a lot of those principles have changed. Earlier, to give one example, earlier parents were again leading their children to a certain place. Right now, it is seen as less the involvement you have apart from just the safety and security of the children, the better the parenting you're doing, because otherwise you're conditioning them in a certain manner, right? And every child comes with their own personality. Are you allowing that to blossom? Are you allowing that to take its own shape? So that's, stuff, there are concepts like this. There are concepts like generational trauma, right? Or generational parenting. There are certain values that just flow into the family, subconsciously, unconsciously. Do you want to look at them? Do you want to realign them? Do you want to redesign them for your child and for yourselves for that matter, right? So a lot of parents came up to us when we were doing our workshops with children saying that we have not been taught in a structured fashion any of this. And we would love to understand all of it to see how we can, help our children and as an adult help ourselves as well. The teacher's role similarly is changing. They were the gospel of truth, the gospel of knowledge. Now all of that is changed, right? I want knowledge. There are literally 10 channels I can go through, and I can have a conversation with the teacher saying that maybe that fact that you put across is not updated, and here's the updated fact. So now what does the teacher do? And what is their role in this new world? They are now becoming actually caretakers of the well-being of the child. They have to move from a teaching to a more facilitating role, right? And how do you make that transition? What are the principles or the mindsets the teacher needs to change about teaching and themselves to take on this role? That is what we cover in our teachers training program as well. Saying how do you see this whole role differently, and what is the new responsibility you're picking up on?
Very interesting because, there were always whispers in the education community that students have changed completely.
Yes.
The education system and teachers haven't. Right?
Yes.
And I'm glad that, somebody's identified that, and you're not you from the industry, and you identified that gap, and you're coming to the education industry and say, hey, this is what you've been talking about, and here's the solution. So what you're telling me is that you have something for the teachers,
Yes.
you have something for the parents,
Correct.
and definitely you have a curriculum for the students as well.
Yes.
Coming from the education sector, the biggest, I'm talking as a devil's advocate, most schools are very adverse to taking third-party curriculum, right? Because all of them have a lot of, again, this could be the way the system is, right? We use XYZ books, and this is mandated by the government, or this is mandated by the board that we are working with. And they're not very open to accepting what you guys are doing. So can you share these stories? Do you face this resistance, or it's been a cakewalk so far?
So we've had multiple kind of responses. There are schools who are completely arms open. We met somebody, and this is, I think, not basis location kind of school, etc. We met somebody from Orissa, and he was completely wanting to collaborate and do a more of a consulting assignment, saying that you give me something specialized for my 5 schools, where we look at what are the issues these 5 schools are facing, and you let's build, while 50 to 60% of your curriculum will obviously be applicable, but the balance can be absolutely tailor-made to our school, right? So we have people like that. What you said is also true. We also met certain schools in Bombay who have their own counselor in place, and they're saying, oh, we pretty much do what you saying and talking about. And it's more of a tick mark process, which we can clearly see while we are talking to them. It is more in terms of, okay, we are also taking care of this as an ICSE school for your child. So it all depends on the mindset of the founders, the senior management, like any other corporation, right? It always flows from the top. And we've seen, but what we have seen as an industry, like I said earlier, they've become more open about the concepts as such. They are facing huge behavioral issues. Post-pandemic, post-advent of technology and the exposure to social media, they are facing a lot of behavioral issues, which in turn does impact their core academic performance as well. So how do you take care of that? And these are the answers. You have to take them through something like this.
Okay, without putting you in a spot, when schools say that they are facing behavioral issues, is it really the student who is not well behaved, or there's not enough content in the classroom to keep them engaged? What is your personal view around this?
So I think we can do a whole new podcast on that. But to keep it short and simple, as they say, the child is very much in a natural state of well-being, right? It is the environment, the experiences which lead them to certain behaviors, right? So if those behaviors could be at home, those behaviors could be at, the environment could be at home, the environment could be at school, which changes them into having those behavioral issues. Now, what you see is the symptom. What you see is the behavioral issue, but what is underlying that? And that is where teachers are not equipped to understand any of it. And I don't blame them. It's not part of their degree or part of the education they went through to understand is the KR. It's not part of the KRA or KPI either, right? I have to ensure that they score a 90%. That's my KRA. I have to ensure that I finish my curriculum. That's my KRA. But what happens to them in the process is not it's neither captured as a KRA in the report card. It is not in their appraisal system. So the systems are not built for that. Neither are they educated for that. So it's a question of the environment. And then there is further punishment given to that behavior. You're just bringing them into a downward spiral.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you help the child in such a situation? The question is that. And please, let's understand the grades that we're talking about from 1st standard to 10th standard. These are fundamental to a lifelong process. So behaviors, mindsets, attitudes set at this age will stay lifelong. And if you're not going to be helping them on that, I think it's a huge disservice of the education system as such.
Correct. I think what you're saying is correct because it's not only just the students or the parents. I think it's a systematic failure where there are certain requirements which, as a system, is not trying to understand, and that's where you guys come into play. So, what is the age group that you generally work with? Are we talking about preteens, teens, young adults? Where does your curriculum start and up to what grade does it go to?
So it starts from age 6 to 16, which is grade 1 to 10. We also have a curriculum for preschoolers, but that is, they have a limited vocabulary, so it's a shorter curriculum. But it definitely, it's as much as when you start teaching a child, numeracy and alphabets, etc., we start teaching identification of emotions, that I'm feeling angry. And you can tell your teacher, a 4-year-old says, I'm feeling angry because this child did this to me. That is the intent, that you start young. And that child who's had a trajectory of 10 to 13 years in school and has learned it as a solid subject. So from understanding 1, 2, 3 to doing higher math, similarly, that's the intention, that you start from identification of emotions to, okay, I'm feeling like this, I'm pressurized, my boards are here. What are my options right now? What is it that I can do? So it covers the entire gamut of academic right now.
And I think it's like a discipline like any other, right?
Yes,
The more you practice, the more better you get at, right? And to practice something first, you have to understand it. And I think it's wonderful that, you're starting it as basic as, first understand the emotion and then we learn how to deal with them. Yes. I think it's very logical. So we spoke about schools and their response. What has been the response of children? Do they feel that what you're teaching them is engaging enough? Are they enjoying the subject? Or are they taking this as one more subject which we have to study and, we have to score something? Or what's the
So there is a knowledge component to the curriculum that you have to explain because you never heard this before. So you understand what anger is, or anger is good for me. They all look at me like anger is good for me and it's okay to be angry. That itself is new, that all emotions are okay. So there's a knowledge component and a lot of it is very interactive. It has to be fun and engaging. When you're with younger children, we are doing storytelling and the character is experiencing anger and has a meltdown, etc. And they can all identify with the character. It has happened to me somewhere. Then we play a board game. For example, we were talking about anger. There we have a board game on anger. And the angry pirate, his treasure is his ease. And he has to find his ease. There are 30 steps that he crosses through to find his ease. Each step is a solution for how to manage my anger. By the time the whole classroom has played it, the child has gone home learning 30 new steps. 4, 5 will stay back with the child. It has to be fun. Otherwise, children, you don't want it to be another added burden. And oh my God, I'm learning. We used to have moral science, that book that you did learn some stories, but you weren't able to apply it in life. The idea is to be able to use it, has real life application. So there is knowledge, but there's a lot more of fun and games, role plays, chat shows, age relevant for, you don't have to tell the teen what to do. They know what to do. You have to enable it. So we have a lot of chat shows and role plays in that. We have games like Never Have I Ever. What they use in their everyday life, we turned it from the lens of emotional strength.
Nice.
Also, what I see a change now, JK, is earlier there was a bigger taboo on this subject. There was a bigger, oh God, it's just another subject. It's actually moving to the other side of the spectrum. Some teenagers are actually flaunting the fact that I have a therapist. So while that is another extreme, but it definitely pulls the population towards acceptance.
Yeah.
Saying that, okay, it's good to talk about what you're going through. It's good to talk about your emotions, your thoughts. Be transparent, be open. I think parents are also leading this change. They're also at sorts lost in terms of what do I do with this now, right? If there is a anxious behavior or there is a behavior because of a lot of pressure, how do I deal with these things? And in that, they want to know more. They want to talk more. The good part about social media and exposure is that this has all come out in the open and it's all there for everybody to see.
Correct.
So the parents, the teachers, the schools, the children themselves. So that there is a whole change of tide which is happening where they are saying, no, I want to now learn more about this. We are trying more and more. How do we make it cooler for the,
Yeah.
for the teenagers so that they're taking more and more interest. And that's where everything that Neha spoke about in terms of different kinds of techniques that we keep using. And the younger children are always 2 hands up wanting to participate in everything. So that's a lesser of a challenge because they're always open to everything. But in terms of middle age and secondary school and beyond is where we see, okay, how do we make this a little more engaging for them?
And relevant, right? Because as they keep growing, the pressures are different. Their worldview changes, right?
Yes.
When the kids are younger, their worldview is different. World is a much smaller space, and then suddenly, it expands rapidly.
True.
They are going through their own, um, you know, uh, chemical changes inside their body. But at the same time, the world is also expanding, right? More friends from all over the world, social media.
Yes.
And if you can gamify it and keep it more relevant, I think it'll always work. Uh, do you have any why by asking about a specific case study is that there's a view that uh, you know social emotional learning is very, very subjective. There can't be a standardized format, or there can't be like a checklist. If you do this, then your child will be fine. And it's very, very specific. It's very customized as per, because not everybody comes from the same background. Even if they come from the same social strata, the way parents behave or grandparents behave, or there are different layers to this. And do you think from that perspective your curriculum takes care of these finer points of customization?
So if I would talk about the mental health spectrum from 1 to 5, between 4 and 5 is where you need intervention, either via therapy. 5 is when you get into medical intervention. We are in the 1 to 2.5 scale of the spectrum, right? Where it is largely about spreading awareness, building knowledge base, and initiating practice, right? And that's where 80 to 85% of the student population or the child population lies.
Which brings me to another question. When you say 1 to 2.5 of the spectrum, are we talking with the neurodivergent population or
Neurotypical.
neurotypical, right? So
Everybody.
So it's everybody, right? Because they
Absolutely.
would need this at some level or the other, right? It's not necessary that we are getting into the therapy space,
No.
right? This is more about awareness and understanding your own emotion and managing that, right?
Correct. And that's exactly where the company also comes into picture, because whenever we spoke about emotional mental health with people, they really looked at neurodivergent only. They looked at only those special cases who needed that in a very acute manner, right? But what about the rest of the population? It's not that they don't need it, right? So that's where we said we need to place ourselves. We need to place ourselves to make sure that the larger population takes care of. So I usually take an analogy for veganism, right? You could have two people being 100% vegan, or you have 50 people being 50% vegan. And what is the impact that that's going to have? Something similar to that, right? So if you have a larger population being aware of a lot of these aspects, even the neurodivergent ones find themselves in an environment which is far more empathetic, far more understanding, far more supportive of their requirements as well.
Correct.
So it does take care of them also in many ways. But of course, their needs are a little more acute and they need special attention. And that's where we then point them in the right direction. If we are, if there is a flag which is raised saying that this child needs special care, then we have our associations with other very, very capable experts who take care of that.
You're talking about level 4 and 5.
Yes, level 4 and 5.
Okay. So, I mean, wonderful conversation, but, I can't end this conversation without asking you my favorite question. And that is that what does, and this is my quest or query with education in itself, that what is education, right? Because we all say schools have to be this or subjects have to be like this, it has to be more. When you think of education, how do you visualize a great school, or how do you visualize education as a holistic approach?
I think education for me, one is looking at it long term. And second is finding the most powerful version of myself. And as I raise myself, can I also raise the people around me? So not just myself, but you support. And that's how you change communities. So the education has to, be in context of a society and not just self. And I think that's where our gurukuls had possibly cracked it far better, because we always started with looking at education within and how am I responding to my environment. Our current education system is more focused towards what's happening in the world around me. And nobody looks at what is happening to me. So something happened in the world, so I am feeling angry. Okay, and you get stuck at the anger. But if you're taught to, what can I do with this anger? What is the source of this anger? How can I change it in myself? And how can I change in the world around? So for me, education is finding definitely the most powerful version of myself alongside others.
How about you, Apurva?
So I think our education system currently is focused on capability, right? Saying the mark system, all of it is, okay, how capable are you? I feel that every child is capable. You need to find the suitability, right? Where are they most suitable? Even in the corporate world, I'll give you an example from my consulting days. We had somebody, so I was leading a team of 3 consultants on an assignment. At the end of it, I had to fire 2 of them because they were not suitable for that role. One of them went into the sales and marketing, completely flourished there. One of them went into research, joined CRISIL, and is at a really senior level there. Now, both of these guys, from the traditional point of view, were failures in consulting. But it was the question of suitability. And I think that is what needs to come down to the education system as well. Are you where is your most suitable? And that is why I love the Ikigai concept, right? It brings you into a complete balance for the external and the internal. Who am I? What am I interested in? Does the world need? And how do I match it all together, right? That is why I think the education is needed to be given. And then it is very unique to every child. And if we can manage that, and now with the advent of technology, I'm sure it's possible. There are some schools which have taken steps in them. Like we know of Dreamtime Learning is one of the schools who have taken online education. Now the path of online education enables you to have breakout rooms, and you could have as little as 1 or 2 people in those breakout rooms and giving specific knowledge for that level. We are now talking about, as an education concept, taking away classrooms and building levels. So in the same classroom, you could have level 1, level 2, level 3, because that is the need of the child. So those suitabilities, if you build into the education system, and if you can build on that, I think that's the right education to be given to the children. It's very similar to what Neha just spoke about, taking them closer to who they are and what they're built for, or what their personality is built for, and then supporting them to thrive in that, that will also help them to define their own standards of success.
That's very important.
Because what is success? Today there's a large barometer of wealth, but everybody sees it differently. Somebody may say, the minute I have my own freedom to do what I want, that according to me is success, right? For me, traveling is success. For me, being able to spend time with family is success. Now, can you look at those and then build your life around your own parameters that you value? And if you're able to do that, I think that's being successful.
Correct.
So once you are reaching your own suitability to things, I think you'll be in a closer space to build that as well. And that's what education should really support.
Wonderful. I think we are ending on an extremely wonderful note that education is a very personal thing, and standardization, the way the education is right now, where we've standardized everything, may not have a very long future.
Yes.
We've already discussed how, some schools are going beyond standardization methods and students are finding their own purpose, their own ikigai, they're rather helping them to find their own purpose. And I think finally, if every student can figure out themselves, in this, while they are being educated, at how to lead a successful, subjective success and not, the way the world has defined success.
My version of success.
Yeah, their own version of success.
Yes.
Then I think the world will be in really good hands and the future will be bright. Thank you very much for joining us and, giving your insight into what education should be and what you guys are doing. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us, JK. And this has been a great conversation and very insightful for us as well. So thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
Thank you.